Hey, good evening, Ashley.
Hi Jay, how are you?
What's new?
Well, I came out to another one of my coworkers this week.
Hey, all right. What's the score?
The score is I've now come out to uh 10 out of the 12 people on my team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
So,
to recap, the other two are still in the building with you,
oh yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
and whether they suspect something or not is not your concern yet.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I mean, at the same time, I don't think they suspect much. But even if they do, I don't care.
Do you do something different with your hair? Do you not bother with mascara? Do you not?
Oh, when I'm just at work, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not out at work, so
Except mostly.
well, for varying levels of mostly.
Well, it's more than 90%.
Are you talking about number of people or indications
Percentages.
thereof?
I guess we have a different definition of out, as it means being public about it, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
So, 10 out of 12.
Yeah. So I guess I mean that in that sense, I guess it's most of the people at work that I'm out to, but at the same time, in my mind, I guess there's sort of a difference of being mostly out at work. Saying mostly out at work versus saying mostly out to the people at work, I guess. Because it's not like I'm giving outright indications that I'm transgender, I guess. Although for someone to infer that would not be an enormous leap.
Because didn't you tell me that you're wearing sandals and things?
Oh, because my painted nails?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So indeed, I do wear sandals with my painted toes, and as well, I mean my nails are painted at work. But
I like that
um,
color.
oh, thanks. Do you want to guess what the name is?
Um,
Do you want to? Okay, do you want to guess anything close about it? Because the name you're probably not gonna guess it, honestly.
is Azure in it?
No,
Azure? It is Azure, though, isn't it?
no. I mean,
Sure it
I
is.
don't know what Azor is. Is that? It sounds
I
like a
think it's,
character from Prince of Persia.
or Ghostbusters.
Yeah. Oh, that was Zool. Was that the one that
Yeah,
lived in the refrigerator?
yeah. No, one of Zool's minions first appeared in the refrigerator.
You're right. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I think we got off track.
You were going to tell me the name of the nail color.
Yeah. Okay. So the name of this color is Teal the Cows Come Home.
Oh, god damn.
Get it? Teal the Cows Come Home?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, I know.
Ah,
So typical badness. Well, not typical badness. Oftentimes color names will be better, but that one has a bit of cheese to it. So
so
yeah, what are you gonna do?
leaping off of the work thing, how do you ask your coworkers not to tell the rest of the people you haven't come out to?
A lot of it is just common courtesy in terms of when a transgender person comes out to someone versus, say, a lesbian or gay person come out to someone. Obviously, they're telling you different things, but the etiquette surrounding who you could tell or not tell is basically the same. Namely, that by default, one would keep it to oneself unless the person who's coming out to you says otherwise. So I think in large part that kind of covers the bases, but at the same time, I'll also talk about who I've come out to so far and who I haven't come out to so far, giving
Hmm.
additional indications that I will be coming out to these people, so I don't want you to out me to these people.
And everybody's always agreed to that and not had any misgivings because it's a heavy thing to ask somebody to keep a secret.
It can be, but we're adults.
Well, that's just the thing. I haven't, present company excluded, I can't remember the last time after high school that I was asked to keep a secret.
Really? Not
So
like
I
not a
thought,
single surprise birthday party
nope.
or but someone's never told you
Um,
about like a gift like, "Hey, I'm giving this person like a Kindle or something. Don't tell her."
I guess there have been a couple of on the down low relationships that I wasn't supposed to talk about, but
You just don't like keeping secrets, or you find it burdensome?
I don't gossip as a matter of course, and
Right.
frankly, there are a lot of parts of people's personal lives that I simply don't care about, so I'm not likely to tell secrets.
Right.
But
Sure.
that's unusual. Other people really enjoy gossiping, so
Yeah, and I think what you may be getting at, intentionally or otherwise, is that in many other offices, this could quite possibly be an issue.
hmm.
In that they would often be the quote unquote office gossip or whoever.
Janice, let's say Janice.
Sure, or Bob, whomever,
Sure.
and he or she might be the type to either couldn't contain themselves or wants to rain on your parade or whatever.
Yeah.
But it so happens that for the company I work for and for the team I work on, it's fairly small. I mean, 12 people is not a lot. I mean, I know all of them very well, and
Yeah.
they're also very trustworthy people.
Okay.
So,
You tweeted something today about a sports bra and how the
right.
hug got uncomfortable after a while. Could you?
Do you want me to read off the tweet
Sure.
or? Well, I should get this off the bat that my Twitter account is fourth and first, so named after the fourth and first letters in the LGBT acronym, which we're
All right.
identifying. Okay, here we go. So I guess this was a couple days ago where I tweeted, "New tactic, sports bra plus undershirt under my shirt. I'm hoping this will keep my nipples and piercings from showing through at work."
So does that mean that there had been a couple days where they were showing through?
It was kind of iffy. It was the kind of thing where I'd be glancing at myself in the bathroom mirror and kind of like, that's a little borderline. Kind
What was
of
the
thing.
previous plan? Just an undershirt?
Right.
Okay. And over that you would wear
A t-shirt
whatever guys
or
wear?
yes, as I'm not yet out at work, I will wear a men's cut t-shirt.
Interesting. Okay. So no silk blouses.
No, because I'm not yet out at work.
I'm just teaching myself
Of course.
by repeatedly saying the same thing over and over again.
Yes, no, that's entirely
Because I
fine.
imagine you wearing silky blouses at work with curvy collars and, I don't know,
Oh.
flowing cuffs.
I also imagine me doing the same,
All right.
but that is not yet the case.
Okay. I thought maybe there'd be some days because the people that you haven't come out to are what? President of the company?
No, it's my manager,
Manager?
who
Okay, well-
he's the manager of the development team, so he sits like 20 feet from me.
Are there days when the people you haven't come out to happen to not be in the office on a trip or something and then you might dress differently?
Not really, just since so there's two people, and I guess there's kind of a third person who's the president of the company who
Mm-hmm.
likes to make his rounds, as he calls them. I'm sure he thinks he's being helpful, but he's actually just interrupting every single person on the team
Mm.
for 2 to 3 minutes to ask them what they're working on and blah, blah, blah. But anyway,
Yeah.
so that would kind of get in the way of things if I had wanted to go that route. Not
Okay.
that I hadn't considered it, but yeah. So I had been wearing the undershirt and a t-shirt, and that had gone a long way. But as my breasts have been developing and my nipples have been, that wasn't as effective. And so my bits were starting to, well, kind of offer a shadow onto my shirt or what have you.
Mm.
Or
Interesting.
so it was the kind of thing where many of the developers with whom I work are not as fashionably observant or what have you as perhaps some other people. And so maybe they had no idea. In fact, I'm guessing that because I've been looking at myself in the mirror from time to time, and I was probably more aware of it than the average person. So, but at any rate, so I wanted to take care of this as it were. So I picked up a sports bra at Target. And I guess that brings me sort of to the next tweet which was, but as comfortable as the Champion C9 is, and for a sports bra it is surprisingly comfortable, I'm not sure how long I can keep this up.
Hmm.
So those are the two tweets from like 2 or 3 days ago. And then to kind of get things up to current day, the one from today was, I like hugs, but the enduring 9-hour hug of a sports bra isn't all it's cracked up to be. I can't wait until I can wear regular bras at work.
Yeah. Based on the name sports bra, I imagine it's only supposed to be worn for maybe at the most an hour and a half.
I would say intended rather than
Yeah, yeah.
supposed to, but yeah, it's and more so than that, its function is to compress your boobs so that you can play sports and not have your boobs get in the way.
Get in the way. Okay.
Right. So
Are you going
in
to switch tactics?
well, it's kind of a rock and a hard place because I can't have my boobs showing at work, at least not until I'm out yet. And there are only so many ways to smoosh them.
And
And what do you mean and?
I'm waiting for you to tell me the reason why you can't come out to the other people at work.
Well, I'm getting there, Einstein.
You said rock in a hard place.
Well, it's a rock and a hard place in terms of the discomfort that a sports bra
Hmm.
brings, in that it's my primary option at the moment, and yet there aren't many other options, at least until I come out to my other coworkers.
Nothing more comfortable, yeah.
Right. I mean, one of my Twitter followers, a friend of mine, Dinah, she mentioned, well, one thing I could try would be to pick up a couple different sports bras that I could maybe change over to a different one over lunch, just so that
Oh, with like a different shape.
or just by nature of their different manufacturing, they would have different pressure at different areas.
Okay.
Because really the discomfort is not so much having a fabric around my chest, it's that it's squeezing me for 8 or 9 hours at a time.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
It's not a walk in the park, no. So anyway, that was Diana's idea. It's not a bad one, but I may see how things go. So you were asking about what's keeping me from coming out to the other two people. And
If only to relieve some of your discomfort.
right. So of the two people, the person who's not my boss, I might come out to him tomorrow.
Great.
Yeah. It may just depend on how things pan out and whatever.
You gonna invite him to lunch or ask him to go into the conference room?
Typically, I will just ask to speak with him in the conference room.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's the one person, the other remaining person being my boss,
Hmm.
my manager. And so there's not really a good time to come out at work, I guess. Just some times that are less bad than others. But I was thinking, well, maybe if I get to a point where our workload isn't crazy. I mean, certainly when we're under deadlines and such, I mean, we're all on the team under some stress, but as well, I'm sure my boss is, just in terms of managing all the pieces and everything.
Sure.
So, I mean, it might be like 2 or 3 weeks from now when I come out to him.
Can you imagine up for me a circumstance in which you might be eager to tell your manager, come out to your manager, or to not have put your manager at the back of the list, like if your manager was openly gay or something like that? Would you think that then it would have been easier?
Yeah. I mean, that would certainly make things easier, yeah, if my
Right.
manager had been gay, and as far as I know, he's not.
Is there something that you know about your manager that made you put him at the back of the list? Or is it simply because of his position in the company?
It's mostly on account of his position at the company that...
Do you worry that you might be able to get fired?
I mean, here in Texas, there are no employment discrimination protections for any of the LGBT acronym.
Okay.
So there's the possibility I get fired, but I think that's pretty unlikely.
Okay.
So I'm not too worried about that. I suppose to some slight degree, I don't really have quite a read on him that I mean, when various people go to lunch, he doesn't really talk about politics too often, so I don't really have a feel for his thoughts on such things.
What is it about his position at the company that makes you hesitate then?
He is the type of manager that is kind of an all or nothing person. Not not a black or white kind of thing, but he'll either tend to procrastinate or he will do things right away. Just to pick one example, we needed some new chairs because some of them were falling apart, and he kind of put that off for like 6 months.
Yeah.
And then some of us kind of developed like back problems because the chairs were so fucked up. And they took out chairs, and it was fine. But there was the possibility that when I went to go talk with him, that he would want to just start changing usernames right away.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
like
that
the
would make
Busy
you
Beaver.
uncomfortable?
If I hadn't come out to everyone else, yeah.
Ah.
Because suddenly getting emails from Ashley, and they're like, who's this or whatever.
Okay. That same characteristic of his is making you hesitate now, though. The procrastinating or doing right away.
It's not terribly. I mean, at this point, I have that one other non-manager guy who I'm hoping to come out to tomorrow. And then after that, it's just a matter of making sure that we don't have a huge workload so that he can tend to this topic without being overly stressed on account of existing deadlines and what have you.
And you're willing to live with the possibility of 3 weeks of, is chest pain the right word?
I wouldn't say pain. It's discomfort maybe, or I mean, you could think of it like, have you ever had like an ace bandage wrapped around something that was sprained or broken?
Sure.
Yeah. So if those are
it's a pressure.
a little bit, yeah. So it's uncomfortable, but it's not.
And was there something in there in your tweets about piercings?
Yeah. So I have my nipples pierced.
When did that happen?
That was 2 years ago, I think.
Before you had even come out to yourself then?
Right.
Okay.
Which may have been for the better, since my nipples are a lot more sensitive now.
Well, yeah.
But of course, as my breasts have been growing, the piercings made my nipples all the more obvious in terms of my shirts. And
Right.
so on.
Are they like mini dumbbell shaped, or are they rings, or what?
Yes, the mini dumbbell shape.
Okay.
Yes.
I knew a girl who wore them in kind of a U shape. And would position them so that they poked outward and said, "Look, I have 4 nipples." That was fun. Hey, so since we're talking about hardware,
Yeah, hardware.
unless you think it's too early, I wanted to ask you about sexual reassignment surgery.
No, that's fine. I mean, it's something which is going to be kind of a ways off, if anything. But yeah, I don't mind talking about that. Yeah. Should we start by saying what that is, or where do you want to go?
Yeah, tell me what that is. Because I don't want to take anything as a given.
Sure.
Because this whole spectrum thing, you could stop whenever you wanted.
Right. So, sexual reassignment surgery, sometimes also called vaginoplasty, at least for male to female transgender persons, is the process of converting a penis into a vagina.
Well, let me jump back.
Yeah.
Because
sure.
maybe this is a moment to talk about terminology, but I don't know. It's probably all Rocky Horror's fault, but I grew up thinking that transsexual was somebody who had their organs changed, and everything else was some other word. And I thought maybe transgender was one of those words. Clearly transvestite is one of those words. Transvestite is somebody who simply dresses as another gender, is that right?
Yes, you're correct. A transvestite is someone who has the same gender identity as the one that they were born with, but who chooses,
Transgender is what you are.
Right.
Transsexual is not really, it's in a different category.
Transgender is actually an umbrella term covering transsexual, intersex. I believe it includes transvestite. And so, I guess medically speaking, you could say that I'm transsexual.
Okay.
And so as transgender is sort of the umbrella term that encompasses that, both are accurate for me. And so it would not be inaccurate to say that I'm transsexual, but given the stigma that society has placed on that word, I prefer the term transgender for me.
Oh, all right. Is transsexual and or sexual reassignment surgery something that you encountered in the FAQ 20 years ago when you were poking around using it?
So transsexual is a common misconception is that it includes surgical options.
Would you recommend that people stop using that word entirely then? Because I'm not.
No, it's fine. I have no qualms with it, but it refers to someone whose gender identity differs from the one they were born into, I suppose, or the birth sex that they were
Okay.
born into.
So to get Socrates for a second, all transsexuals are transgender, but not all transgender people are transsexual.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah. I suppose this is a slight tangent, but one misconception is that people who are transgender or transsexual necessarily have sexual reassignment surgery.
Right.
And that is not always the case, and it does not make someone any less of a woman or any less of a man depending on their gender identity.
Okay.
In part, some people simply cannot afford it.
Mm-hmm.
For others, they may feel that their outward presentation in other manners is more important to them
Mm-hmm.
than those types of things. So it kind of differs for each person.
As you can imagine, there are plenty of people, let's just limit it to America,
Sure.
who would say, well, if you can't have a baby, you're not a woman.
And those people be bigots because there are barren women who are born women.
Good point.
And it's what happens that I'm a barren woman.
People with hysterectomies are still women.
Right. Right. It's sort of along the lines, in my mind, of the canard where people say that marriage is only for people who plan on procreating.
Mm.
Which is also bogus for the same reasons because, for example, you could have senior citizens getting married who are no longer able to have babies.
Very good point.
So the crux of part of the whole, some of the transgender bits, it's what's in your head. It's not what's between your lower bits, as it were.
Okay. You can say legs.
So,
it's that kind of show.
Sure, you could say legs. Yeah. So some transgender people choose to undergo SRS, others don't. Some people choose to go for other surgeries first. They're very
Like what?
well, for example, for trans women, they may choose to undergo what's often known as FFS, which stands for facial feminization surgery,
Oh.
which is an umbrella term for various plastic surgeries for things like reducing one's Adam's apple, reducing one's brow ridge, perhaps rhinoplasty to change the shape of one's nose, perhaps chin implants or reconstruction to change the shape of one's chin.
Is there something about a particular kind of nose that might make it look more masculine?
Well, you could think of it in terms of the button nose, for example, that some women have,
Right.
in which it is wider and sort of flatter. That is very feminine, whereas the opposite of that, whereas more narrow and more outwardly going,
Oh, interesting.
is sort of more masculine. Some of these are sort of the kind of things that once you become aware of them, you kind of see it all the time, but
Yeah.
you may not notice.
Well, now you've cursed me to stare at noses,
Well, yeah, but there are worse things to be cursed with.
I suppose.
Yeah. So there are some transgender people who choose to go for FFS or, well, trans women,
Right.
and who may do that either before or instead of.
Is there a facial masculinization surgery?
I'm sure there is to some extent, but, well, I'll back up for a moment. So with FFS, for example, it's not so much that someone looks at someone else and says, oh, you have a feminine nose, so you're a girl or whatever.
Mhm.
It's all subconscious stuff just from a second's worth of evaluation, but it's that
Yeah.
cumulative effect of someone's head and torso and the clothes that they're wearing and the way they carry themselves and the way that they speak that forms that near instantaneous impression of one's gender.
Okay.
So for trans men, one of the things that they will often do is grow a beard or mustache, which on one hand is something that immediately makes someone masculine.
Yeah.
And as well, many trans men find that that's one of the things they most look forward to as they go through their transition.
Interesting.
Because as their birth gender, they are unable to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm trying to think where we were going with this.
Eventually, you were going to tell me whether you planned on doing SRS.
Oh, right. So I will first probably be going for FFS, facial feminization surgery.
Okay. What do you want to do?
I want to have a trachea shave, which is, I mean, this is all just cartilage, so that's actually
okay.
very straightforward. Perhaps rhinoplasty. And I may choose to have my brow ridge reduced, but I'll have to.
Now, what does
I mean,
what does that mean?
So there's a bone just above the eyebrows of males that juts out slightly.
Huh.
Again, this is something that once I've told you, you'll probably see all over the place. But women will not have that. Their foreheads will be from their eyebrows, it will be flat going upward, whereas there's a slight ridge around here-ish on males. I mean, you could feel it on your own head if you...
Yeah. And so that's a bone.
That is a bone, yes. And that is something that...
Well, it's part of your skull. It's not an additional bone.
I don't know the exact biology of it, but that seems plausible, yeah.
So does that get shaved as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's not... unlike the cartilage in one's trachea, which I'm sure is a scalpel and blah, blah, blah.
Uh-huh.
I'm guessing there are more significant tools to shave bone, but yeah.
The Adam's apple will also have no effect on your speaking voice, is that right?
No.
I didn't mean to bum you out. I just wanted to clarify. There are a lot of things that our viewers don't know, and myself as well.
Yeah, no, that's quite all right.
So you want to do FFS first because it has a more immediate public effect, or because it's cheaper?
It is not cheaper, but it is SRS is something that will not help me pass, since people wear clothes most of the time.
It would have an immediate effect on your romantic life.
Yes, that could be true.
And just for the record, you're not seeing anyone at the moment.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And I don't at all discount the value from SRS, that some trans women choose to do that first or do only that. Of course, some choose not to do so at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of it is just how it affects that person specifically.
Right.
And so for me, I've known for a while that I had wanted to do FFS. And given that it is no single surgery, that there are lots of pieces to it, and given that it can be different for each person, because some people may opt to do a little bit of this, or some people may opt to do that. I mean, for example, some people may have just a very naturally flat brow ridge and have no need to change anything there.
Yeah.
So the cost can vary for FFS.
Yeah.
My plan for a time was to do that and then maybe just save up from there and then make the decision about SRS.
Okay.
Because FFS could cost maybe between $20,000 and $30,000.
Yeah.
And of course, it's not covered by insurance because they think it's elective rather than being medically necessary.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm just saving up for that right now.
How long from now do you think you'll be able to start?
Oh, undergoing FFS and surgeries?
Right.
And stuff? Well, it so happens I just bought a car this spring. So, I mean, it could be, I don't know, 3 or 4 years maybe.
Okay.
I mean, some may depend on particular raises at work, or if I happen to change jobs, it maybe pays a little more or whatever, or freelance work.
Okay.
So
you wouldn't necessarily consider reducing any of your other regular monthly expenses? Not that I know what those are.
And I'm not a spendthrift really. That's the one that spends a lot, or is that the other way?
You could use a simpler word. You could say you're
Okay.
frugal or wasteful.
I don't know if I go so far as to say that well, I guess you could say I'm frugal. I mean,
You're pretty
I don't
frugal.
I don't I don't splurge on things really. So I'll treat myself now and then, maybe going
Yeah.
buy a new shirt or whatever now and then.
To be frank, the way that you handle money made a lot more sense in retrospect when you came out. So I'm like, oh, she has big plans.
Wait, tell me more about this.
Okay, so
I don't
you're
disagree.
better.
I'm just trying to recollect.
You're better with money than I am, certainly. I'm better with money than some people, but not good. And you live alone. You don't have any kids. You don't have any pets. You have a
Right.
pretty good job that pays pretty well. I
Sure.
imagine you've never taken a pay cut to go work at like a startup that was
I
particularly exciting.
No,
And
not really.
you don't seem to be in the habit of going out to dinner a whole lot. You certainly don't buy toys. You buy things that provide you with a lot of use.
Right. You're right.
You're not going to buy a couch and then get another couch the next year, whatever.
Yeah.
You don't have a hammock. You're not a hammock person.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Um, and you've had one car since I've known you over like 8 years
Right.
until just now when you got a different car, which is pretty
Right.
exciting. I was very happy for you.
Yeah.
And I always was pretty amazed by how you were able to just keep saving.
Ah.
I'm like, oh, transgender is expensive. Okay, I think I get it now. And that helped me. That helped me
Yeah.
explain in my own mind that your financial habits, but also made me feel better about myself because I don't have plans like that, and so I can afford to be a little more wasteful.
That could be one way of looking at it, maybe. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
But most of that time when I knew you, when you had all those financial habits, you hadn't come out to yourself yet.
Right. I mean, I think some of that was
So you
just
maybe just learned good financial habits.
that may have been the way in which I was brought up or what have you.
So
So
facial
you
feminization surgery is in the plan, and
right.
that's going to be a few years. Sexual reassignment
Right.
surgery, yes or no?
For a time, my plan was I was going to take 3 or 4 years to save up or I'm guessing,
Yeah.
for FFS, facial feminization surgery. And then my plan was, well, after that point, start the process again because SRS is also 20 or 30,000.
Okay.
So let's save up a bunch more money. And so that was gonna be like another, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, whatever.
And other
So
people would be socking this money away toward retirement
yeah,
or vacations or something.
or blowing it on hookers and coke, whatever.
Right. I never think of that.
So the upshot being that supposing I saved up for FFS, and then even if I started saving up for SRS, by that point it would have been probably nearly 10 years in which I would have to make the decision on whether I'd wanted to do it.
Okay.
Just by that virtue of it takes a while to save up money.
Right. You don't feel
And
impatient about it?
I mean, this might be like a whole other show, but I mean,
There's nothing
well,
really stopping you from getting a bunch of credit cards.
other than my conscience,
Right.
because I do not want to be paying back $30,000 at 20% interest.
I don't want you to either. I'm just saying. That's how
Yeah.
Kevin Smith got started.
Oh, I know.
A lot of people do the same thing and fail, but it worked for him.
Right. So that was my initial plan, and what I'm more leaning toward is that I will probably undergo both, I think.
But you're almost certain about the FFS at this point.
Yeah, that's a shoo-in, just about.
Okay.
Because largely, the FFS is to help society accept me,
All right.
whereas the SRS is to help me accept me, in some sense. That's not to downplay either of them, but that's sort of how I look at it.
And all of the facial changes are permanent?
Hopefully. I mean,
Okay.
well, I mean,
Well,
it's
I mean,
it's
there
plastic
are
surgery.
things that you can do to your lips to make them fuller, but that fades over
Oh,
time.
sure. Right. Right, yeah. So, as I had mentioned, I'm kind of leaning toward doing both, and part of what led me to that decision was just that larger and larger portions of my life, I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
To the extent that, at least within Dallas, you can sort of think of a pie chart, and there's like this little slice which is work, but everything
Yeah.
else is me being out. And so I don't as much think of myself as a trans woman, but just a woman.
Okay. That's good to hear.
Yeah. But what that means is that, like, if I wake up in the middle of the night and I need to use the bathroom or something, and I'll be kind of half awake, stumbling to the bathroom, and I'll look down, I'm like, why is this here? And it's like, oh,
Wow.
right, because I was not born the way I should have been. Because my
In your
brain will forget that I've been a woman all along.
in your dreams, are you shaped differently?
I don't often remember my dreams, but
Okay.
I have had dreams when I was younger, or just in general, in which I've been women. Yeah.
Interesting. I just had one of those the other night. I think it's because I'm doing the show with you. And I don't.
About you
I th-
as a
yeah,
different gender?
I think it's the first time I remember a dream in which I wasn't a man. It was odd. It
Was
wasn't
it,
disturbing. It was just different.
were you aware that it was a dream?
No, I never am, and it
And that
annoys
pisses
me.
you off.
It annoys me so much when people writing fiction, well, they'll write the stupidest thing in the world, which is, uh, "It was so real. It wasn't like a dream at all."
Yeah. I mean, you and I both talked about how lucid dreaming would be totally awesome if it was much easier. And for some people it is, but for neither of us, evidently.
Well, apparently the majority of the public does it all the time because that's how people write fiction.
I think my perspective on the fiction thing is just that after the dream, it
Are they just
seems like,
crappy
oh,
writers?
well, no, just like when you wake up, you're like, oh, of course that wasn't real, but at the time it seems real.
Yeah.
So it might be some of that perspective.
Okay.
But as far as the lucid dreaming thing, though, I mean, when I was a teenager, I was trying to induce that for a time, and I was not effective at it. But
Yeah.
I mean, I
I
was
had.
trying to make it so that I could be a woman
Is
in
that
my
why?
dreams regularly.
Oh
That was
wow.
part of it, yeah.
Okay. Neat. Would you mind taking a moment to teach me something girly?
Sure, yeah, I can do that. So I have two nail polish jobbies.
One of them looks pretty clear. One of them looks kind of mauve or
Yeah,
mauve.
kinda, maybe. So neither of these are nail polishes per se, but one is a base coat and one is a top coat.
Hmm.
So
And if I
is your
remember
head
correctly, base
okay? Go
coat,
ahead.
two coats of normal polish, one top coat.
Yeah,
All right. I've never painted nails that way, but that's what you said last time.
good work, Jay.
Thank
So
you.
wait, is that confusing to you, or is that
It's not confusing. It's just not how I've ever done it
which steps
for
do you
someone
skip?
else. If I remember correctly, it's just nail polish and then nail polish again if necessary.
Okay.
So what does a base coat do?
So a base coat, I'm not a complete expert, but among other things, it it can fill in some of the ridges or other,
Minor imperfections in your nails?
yeah,
Okay.
so that, I mean, you can think of it like a paint primer or whatever, just so that it prepares the surface for the polish.
Okay.
And as well, some of them also help the polish adhere. My guess is that there are certain substances within nail polish that make them very colorful and so on, but that those same items may not adhere to the nail as well. But when you have a base coat, it doesn't have to worry about color because it's underneath everything, so it can
Okay.
concentrate on adhering to the nail very well.
There are a lot of primer-like substances in your new life.
You could say that. I mean,
One for
it
your
is sort of
nails,
like
one for your
painting.
face, and one for your eyes. And
Yeah.
is there a base coat for your lips? Please say no. I've never seen that done.
I
It's
am
just
not aware
lipstick
of
right away.
I'm not aware of one, but it's plausible that one might exist.
Sure.
Okay, right. So this one is I mean, there are many base coats. This one is the base coat from OPI, which Some people pronounce it OP, but I think it's OPI. And OPI is often that brand that has goofy names to the colors, but their base coat is just called Natural Nail Base Coat.
Oh, good for them. Okay.
Yeah, sure. So it's a fairly simple application, and most of the things with the base coat are: does it help your color adhere? Does it dry in a reasonable amount of time? And yeah, this one's always worked very well for me. So this is base coat from OPI. And the other product I have is a top coat. And this one is called s01e05, which I'm only somewhat guessing at the pronunciation of that because it's SECHEVITE.
It's not ceviche, I can tell you that.
Right, because that's what they make on Top Chef all the time.
Which is delicious.
I should try that sometime.
Oh, God, you should.
Wait, is that the one where they cook fish by chopping it up and putting acid on it? Or is that the one where they take
lime juice.
Meat? Okay, what's the one where they take meat and they cut it very thinly and serve it raw? Carpaccio.
Tartar.
Wait, what's carpaccio?
I'm not sure, but it's not tartar. They might both be a raw way to serve meat. I don't know about carpaccio.
Okay.
It's probably you're right because you have a better brain than I do.
I don't know. I could be incorrect.
I had tuna tartare for the first time a couple months ago and it was really good. But yeah, go get yourself some ceviche.
Okay.
Especially if you can find it with conch.
Oh.
But get it with
grommet?
Yeah, Yelp it first and see if it's good.
Right. Yes.
I don't want you to have a disappointing first ceviche experience.
Yes. So
you were showing me a top coat?
Yes, I was showing you a top coat. So this is s01e05, and with top coats, they typically have, I suppose you could say, three main functions. The main one of which is to protect your nail color so that it's less likely to chip.
Not your nail chipping, just the color part?
Typically, yeah. Because the color could chip off and
right.
The nail would still be there, but yeah.
Okay. You're talking to a guy who's never accidentally broken a nail. They're super strong, these guys. My sisters were always really jealous.
Yeah.
They're very hard to cut.
You should totally paint those. You're missing out.
Yeah, I should totally join the X-Men. Or go for a Guinness record at the very least.
Yeah. So, that was one of the main bits of a top coat in terms of offering a protective layer so that your color is less likely to chip off. As well, it also serves as sort of a gloss layer. You can think of it like a shiny top coat on a car or what have you. So it helps keep your nails shiny.
Okay.
And the other one is that in some cases, with some top coats, it can help your nails dry more quickly.
How much more quickly?
I mean, it's kind of hard to say just since there's a point at which it seems dry in which you can pick up objects and it won't just smudge off. But at the same time, if you tap your nails on a surface, it could get dented.
Interesting.
So there's a varying degree, but it might reduce it by 20 minutes or so.
I thought the worst case scenario was that it might take 5 minutes for your nails to dry.
Are you shitting me?
No.
Okay. I'm sorry. I should not be so flippant because you may not be aware of these things.
I've been around women and helped them paint their nails, and it was less than 20 minutes before they were up and about doing normal things.
Yeah, I suppose that perhaps you've seen them being careful at that point. I mean, typically what I will do is I often paint my nails in the evening, and I'll paint them in the dining room, and from there I can see the television in the living room.
Right.
What I found works best is that I try to leave about 10 minutes between coats. So base coat, 10 minutes. First coat, 10 minutes. Second coat, 10 minutes. With the exception that I will typically not leave the full 10 minutes between the second coat and the top coat. I might leave just a few minutes there. Because it could be a little bit not fully dried when you put on top coat. But what I've learned is that, well, you may or may not know this having not necessarily gone to a nail salon. But people will often remark that they have their nails done and then they'll go about their days, their weeks, and they'll last a long time. And like, why do their nails last so long, but when I do, it doesn't last as long?
Mm.
And one of the things I've read about is that it's because at the nail salon, they are leaving this gap between coats so that they can cure and dry.
Oh,
So
okay.
that, for instance, when you're putting on the second coat, the first one is somewhat hardened. And so that creates a stronger bond.
And when somebody's doing that at home by themselves, they might not think to leave that much time in between.
Right, because when you're at the salon, you're thinking about relaxing with your girlfriends or boyfriends, and you're just chit-chatting or what have you, and they're massaging your arms and what all that, and so you're having a fun time of it and not necessarily paying attention to the exact durations and timings in there. At any rate, so I'll typically leave about 10 minutes between each coat, and then after that I'll watch some television, maybe 40 minutes or so
Mm.
after I put on the top coat.
Okay.
And so at that point, they'll be dryish, but yeah.
Well, this has all brought to mind many questions about how your day-to-day living has changed and your monthly budget has changed, but we'll have to wait till next time.
Yeah, you can ask me about how many bottles of nail polish I bought.
I will ask you how many you've bought, and I will ask you how many you still have. And I will ask
Yeah,
you how much you have allowed yourself to spend on girly things every month.
yeah.
So thanks for all of that fantastic information, and we will talk again soon.
It's my pleasure, Jay. That sounds fantastic.
All right. You stay cool.
You too.
Good night.
Bye.